Property owners think buying a house means they can do whatever they want with it, but if you're in an HOA, you might have less control over property than you realize. And here's the kicker, you're paying for the privilege of being told what you can't do. I'm Tiffany Weber, real estate attorney in North Carolina at Thomas & Weber. I've done thousands of closings in the Lake Norman area, and I can tell you that HOA issues are the #1 source of buyer's remorse I see. In this video, I'm going to break down exactly how HOAs work, what powers they actually have, and most importantly, what you can and cannot do when you're subject to one. By the end, you'll know exactly what you're signing up for before you buy that house. If you're buying a house anywhere in the United States, this information is crucial, and if you're in North Carolina, there are some specific laws you need to know about. Let's dive in. The #1 misconception I hear about HOAs is that people think they're just a group of nosy neighbors with nothing better to do. But here's the legal reality. An HOA is a corporation, usually a nonprofit corporation that has actual legal authority over your property. Think of property ownership like that bundle of sticks I mentioned in my easement video. When you buy in an HOA, you're voluntarily giving up some of those sticks. The right to paint your house any color, the right to park certain vehicles, sometimes even the right to plant certain flowers. Here's what most people don't understand. When you buy property in an HOA, you're not just buying the house. You're automatically becoming a member of that corporation. There's no opt-out. The covenants, conditions, and restrictions, we call them CC&Rs, are attached to the land itself. They run with the land, meaning they transfer automatically to every new owner. In North Carolina specifically, HOAs are governed by the North Carolina Planned Community Act. This matters because it determines what powers your HOA actually has. Let me break this down for you with a real example. I had clients who bought a beautiful house, planned to install a white fence. The CC&R said fences must be earth tones. They thought white qualified. The HOA disagreed. My clients had to spend $8,000 replacing a brand new fence because of the HOA's interpretation of earth tones didn't include white. Now here's where it gets serious. HOAs have more power than most people realize. Let me break down exactly what they can do. First, they can fine you. In North Carolina, HOAs can levy fines for violations of the CC&Rs. Second, they can place a lien on your property. If you don't pay your HOA dues or fines, they can put a lien on your house. In North Carolina, that lien has priority over almost everything except your first mortgage and property taxes. I've seen people struggle to sell their homes because a $500 HOA lien ballooned to $5,000 with legal fees and interest. Third, and this is the one that shocks people, they can foreclose on your house. Yes, you heard that right. In North Carolina, if you owe at least a certain number in assessments or the delinquency is at least 5% of your annual assessment, the HOA can start foreclosure proceedings. They have to go through court, unlike a deed of trust foreclosure, but they can absolutely take your house. Fourth, they can restrict your property use. This goes way beyond paint colors. I've seen HOAs that restrict the number of pets you can have, whether you can rent your property, what kind of vehicles you can park in your driveway, when you can put your trash cans out, even what kind of curtains you can have if they're visible from the street. So what can you actually do when you're in an HOA, and what can't you do? What you cannot do is you cannot simply ignore the CC&Rs because you think they're unreasonable. Courts in North Carolina consistently uphold CC&Rs unless they violate public policy or law. You cannot make changes to your property without checking the CC&Rs first. Even something as simple as adding a bird bath might require Architectural Review Committee approval. You can't refuse to pay assessments because you don't use the amenities. I hear this all the time. I don't use the pool. Why should I pay? Doesn't matter. You're obligated to pay if the CC&Rs say so. What you can do, you can review the CC&Rs before you buy. In North Carolina, sellers must provide these documents. Read every single page. I know it's boring, but it's better than a $10,000 surprise later. Also, preferably read this before you even put an offer in on the property. You can attend HOA meetings and vote. You're a member of this corporation. Use your voice. In North Carolina, HOAs must hold at least one meeting per year, and you have the right to attend. You can run for the board. I know that's not super popular, but if you don't like how things are being run, get involved. Most HOA boards are desperate for volunteers. You can request financial records. Under North Carolina law, HOAs must make their financial records available to members. If they're mismanaging funds, you have a right to know. Here's what I tell all my clients about dealing with HOAs. First, get everything in writing. If the HOA president tells you verbally that your fence design is fine, that means nothing. Get written approval from the Architectural Review Committee. Second, know the difference between rules and CC&Rs. CC&Rs are recorded documents that usually require a vote to change, and a lot of times that's 67% or more of all the owners. Depends on what the document actually says. Rules are adopted by the board and are easier to challenge. If something seems unreasonable, check which category it falls into. Third, know about the North Carolina Planned Community Act. If your HOA was created after January 1st, 1999, it has to follow specific procedures for meetings, voting, and enforcement. Some HOAs might not follow these properly, which can invalidate their actions. So here's what's really happening. HOAs were originally created to maintain property values and community standards. And honestly, many of them do exactly that. but they've also become mini governments with the power to significantly affect your life and finances. In North Carolina, over 50% of new construction is in HOA communities. In the Lake Norman area where I practice, it's probably closer to 80%. You might not have a choice if you want a newer home, but you should check before you put in an offer. The key difference between HOAs and easements, which I covered in my other video, is that easements are usually limited to a specific use of a specific area. HOAs can have control over everything about your property that's visible, and sometimes things that aren't, provided it's in the CC&Rs. Here's my bottom line advice. If you're someone who wants complete control of your property, an HOA is not for you. But if you value consistent neighborhood appearance and amenities and you're willing to follow rules, an HOA might be exactly what you want. Let's recap what we covered. HOAs are corporations with real legal power over your property. They can fine you, lien your property, and even foreclose. In North Carolina, they must follow specific procedures, but they have significant authority. You have rights as a member, but you're bound by the CC&Rs. The bottom line is this. HOAs are powerful entities that can dramatically affect your property rights and your wallet. Understanding how they work is absolutely crucial before you buy. But wait, there's something even more restrictive than HOAs that might be affecting your property right now, and you might not even know it exists. It's called an easement, and unlike an HOA where you at least get a vote, easements give someone else rights to your property, maybe with zero input from you. I covered exactly this in my video about how easements really work, including the type of easement that can be created on your property without your permission after just 20 years. If you think HOAs are restrictive, you need to see what easements can do. That video is right here. Watch it now.